Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. I'm Adam Edström. I'm from RISE, and I've been working at RISE for 12 years with various projects, and mostly in IT, the digitalization, a lot of EU issues. I lead a focus area in RISE that is focusing on EU digitalization. And this today I will. There's a funny noise here. I'll do it like that. Today I will talk a little bit about a pilot study we did recently that we called lupin. Lupin is in Swedish an invasive species, an invasive flower that starts to grow wherever in a little bit too much in places where you don't want it to grow. But in this context, we talk about the Lab for Evaluation of Production Technology and Innovation in Networks, which is an acronym as well as good as anyone. So the idea initially was to see, could we evaluate things together? Could we evaluate new production technologies in networks? Evaluate things like functionality, of course, and standardization, interoperability, cybersecurity, all those good things, but also put it in a sustainable context with all the different sustainability words, the ecologic, the social, financial, the sustainability, while also preserving issues like occupational health, ergonomics, risk minimization when things are introduced and those things. And our object was, of course, to speed up sustainability through digitalization and data utilization. And we thought, our original thought, was that this would appeal a lot to the large corporation, those who have productions in Sweden. They need to evaluate the digital tools, and they need to minimize risk in industrial applications. They need to minimize risk when they start to apply these new methodologies. We also thought that this would be really interesting for SMEs who don't have any internal evaluation capacity. And we also believe that SMEs who are developing these new digital tools would also be interested, since they really need to evaluate their innovations in a real production environment. And they need to meet customer demands, of course, and this would be a great way for them to meet new customers. And we also thought that we have a lot of test beds at RISE, and those would be the ideal place to do this in practice. And these evaluation labs or test beds, whatever you want to call them, they are sort of industrial. They are not 100% industrial, but they are close enough. That's what was at least our initial thought. And we did this by interviewing a lot of people in the industry and at RISE and at other places. We analyzed our input and came up with some plans for the next step. And we realized that this is not really a good idea. This will not fly. Because the industry said, yeah, this is a nice concept. If you find some money from somewhere else, we'd be happy to send some people to some conferences, but we will not pay for our presence in your project. Fair enough. So we asked, where would you be willing to pay for new development? Where are your pain points right now? And two areas came up as really pressing needs. The first one is cybersecurity, and the other one is disassembly and circularity. And so we are now going forward with the concept to develop it further along those two lines. A little bit about 5G and security. What the industry told us is that cybersecurity is a showstopper for a lot of the new production technology. And we have seen examples of companies having acquired a lot of stuff, bought a lot of equipment that cannot be used because the IT department said, no way you're going to use that. There's too much of a risk. You can't introduce that here. We won't allow it. So there are, in places, 200 iPads stored in a box somewhere that will never be used. And we also have a great quote from from our friend Wim, who is well known in this context. No factory manager wants to take risks, but every factory manager wants to have been the first introducing new technology. And I think that's pretty telling. What we also realized is that 5G it has some advantages from a cybersecurity point of view, but it's seen as a pretty large step by the industry. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But these things could deliver what the industry wants, which was, as far as we understood, the industry wants traceability of material and components. The industry wants more value from collected data. The industry wants data-driven inspections, and the industry wants digital twins. And of course, when we spoke to Ericsson and said we want to do 5G with the Swedish industry, they said, great, come here. We have a test bed or a test area that you can use. So they are definitely onto this. So our next step here is to apply for a grant from the Program Advanced Digitalization, where we will try to understand how private 5G networks, we're not talking public 5G networks, we're talking private 5G networks here, how they can meet industrial demands for cybersecurity in collaboration with updated system architectures, and do all these things that we need to do before committing to 5G. To do the risk analysis, do the security analysis, to see what kind of upgrades are needed, what is the scalability of these things, how can you control devices, what implications does it have for traceability, what are the opportunities to develop new applications? Because, I mean, there are some pretty good advantages. 5G has the high capacity that is needed. It has a control spectrum, and perhaps best of all, it has good traceability. It's easy to log all communications, since everything has to have a SIM card or a soft SIM. And you can do, of course, a lot of other things as well with 5G. But, of course, there are some challenges as well. This is a relatively untested technology. And there aren't that many companies who have good 5G competence, and there are not even very many consultants who you can hire to do this. And yeah, there are some pricing issues, there are some availability issues. We don't know how long the shortage of 5G chips and modules will last. You do need some kind of operator support or a private license to do this. But the big question, I think, is who will actually develop the services that the industry needs? Because Ericsson and their competitors, they will probably not do it. The operators might do some for some very general services. But the specific services that some industries need in particular, we don't see anyone who will develop them for a 5G-based system. So that is a big issue. And we have started to work on a consortium, I should say. It's definitely not there yet. We will contribute with our test beds, the Cyber Range and the Ice Edge in Luleå, and with AstaZero. Ericsson will contribute with their capacity and their little mini factory. We believe that Telia will be interested. We talked to some industrial corporations with production in Swedish, and we would like to invite you as well. And of course, there are other stakeholders as well. So what did the industry tell us about the disassembly track, the other big pressing issue? The impression we got is that the Swedish industry is pretty good at putting things together, but it's not very good at taking things apart in an orderly manner, with well digitalized, with automated procedures, with the data handling and logistics that go into disassembly, who should do what, how do you classify things, and all those wonderful things. How do you make sure that the quality is good enough? But it's the same things, the same underlying factors that drive this development. It's still the traceability, it's more value from data. Still data-driven inspections, but of other things, of used things in this case. And it's still an issue of digital twins. So this is definitely very much a digital issue. And the next step here is that we happen to have already started this development at RISE. We have a cross-disciplinary initiative called Technical Solutions for Sustainable and Circular Products. And they happen to deal with with some of these things. And disassembly and reuse are central themes in that initiative. So they are right now trying to develop industrial offerings. They do research projects in some areas that are not yet mature enough for industrial use. And this initiative will develop something based on the looping concept, some kind of network where things can be tried out in collaboration, in networks, perhaps at a test bed at RISE, perhaps somewhere else. So the looping idea has moved on into 2 specific tracks. And I would hereby, as finalizing my little speech here, like to invite you, all of you, to take part in this development. If you are interested in joining our application to advanced digitalization for evaluating private 5G networks and cybersecurity, please come along. And if you're interested in reuse, disassembly, reuse, and circularity, please come along. Send an email to me or my colleague Marie-Louise. We will take care of, take it from there and update you on our progress. That was basically what I wanted to say. Thank you very much for listening.